Hi, I'm Maggie Apel, co-director of WILMA's Leadership Initiative. Welcome to WILMA's Leadership Accelerator Virtual Workshops for Real Leaders.
And I'm Vicki Janowski, also co-director of WILMA's Leadership Initiative with Maggie. And we just want to thank you for joining us. Every week this month, we'll have a different conversation about leadership topics from area women. Also this month, this marks the 5th anniversary of when Maggie and I launched Women to Watch Leadership Initiative 5 years ago. We're very proud of the accomplishments that both the program and the women who've gone through it have done, so we'll be highlighting that as well on our social media channels, on wilmamag.com, and
to watch these videos and to learn more about WILMA leadership programs, visit wilmaleadership.com.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. We're on another installment of our Leadership Accelerator series this month for WILMA Magazine and our Women to Watch Leadership Initiative. This year, obviously, we've taken the event online and we are holding our virtual workshops for real leaders. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with UNCW women's basketball coach Karen Barefoot, and we are going to be talking about changing the score, about how to motivate teams and also yourself, but not just in the easy and upbeat times, but when things are difficult like they are right now. And Coach Barefoot, thank you for joining us today, coming out of the house hiding to be with us.
Are you kidding me? I get a chance to get dressed up for once. It's been a couple months since I've got my suit on and all that. I feel like I'm going to a game right now.
So great. Glad to have you here. We'll try to make it too tough then. So Coach Barefoot, many of you guys know her from around town at UNCW. She's been here for several years now. She was hired to be the head coach for the women's basketball team in 2017. And actually, that was the year where you spoke at our in-person Leadership Accelerator event. I think I tracked you down at Trask Coliseum and asked if you would talk to our readers for our event at the Convention Center.
That was fun.
And one reason why I wanted to have you back on is because then you were talking about motivating teams, but now we're also going to be talking about how to do that, but we're also going to talk about how to do it during the downtimes, right? So,
absolutely.
You know, we're going to try to keep the sports analogies and leadership analogies to a minimum, but I just think it's fascinating, coaches and learning from coaches who are good and bad in terms of leadership skills. And even if you don't watch sports or you don't watch basketball, though I'm sure you do go to the Seahawks games, right?
Absolutely.
There's so much to be learned there in how you lead teams. And before we jump into the questions, I do want to just share some stats of Coach Barefoot, just so you understand she knows what she's talking about here in terms of leading winning teams. But even when she was a player, before she even started coaching at a young age, which we'll talk about soon, she was the first male or female player in NCAA to score 2,000 points and 1,000 assists during her playing career. During coaching this year, she achieved her 350th win as head coach. Add on to that 430 coaching wins overall. So clearly you do not get to that level in a coaching career without being good at keeping teams going in the good times and the bad. So just to start us off real quick, you know, as a coach, how do you motivate your teams, both in good times and when they are behind in their scores on the board?
You know, that's a great question, and you know, motivation comes from trust, and it comes from just making sure everybody knows that, you know, our team, we say family first, okay, that we have one common goal. We're trying to go out there to represent not just our program, but our school, our community, and ultimately for me, I want them to be leaders on and off the floor. And then hopefully I've inspired them to be leaders in the next phase of their life, which is when they go across that stage and graduate. And I feel like I've given them all the tools to be successful, and now they can impact others. So leadership is every day. It's really a motivation. You got to have a passion, even if things are not so good, just like right now. And I know we'll get to talking about that. But you got to stay motivated. And I think for me as a leader is just trying to find out what motivates each one. And, you know, trying to get that out of them to understand that they have a gift, you know, and that everybody's gift is important. A team is important, you know, and it's been challenging recently, because just think about that. A couple months ago, you know, we're getting ready to play in the quarterfinals game. We just won in the first round. And 2 minutes before tip-off, they said, head back to the locker rooms. And now, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've got seniors, we're playing the best basketball at the end of the year, and now there's no basketball. So that's when leadership really has to come in place. Like, how do I handle that?
And that's when you guys found out the season was over?
Yes.
It's just surreal how quickly everything shut down on that end. So when that happened and you were talking to the players and it became clear that everything that they've been expecting and working for, especially for the seniors, what did you say in that moment to them?
I had to take a deep breath, honestly. It's the first time, I've coached for 25 years. And I really, truly, before I headed to the locker room, my administration, the commissioner grabbed me and says, this is your time to really make sure when you walk in there that you've got to present to them that this is just out of control thing. Sorry this happened, but there's going to be a lot of people hurt in there, when their seasons come to the end. And I really, truly, in my mind, I knew that I had to be bigger than everything else, that I had to control my emotions, that I had to go in there and care, and I had to tell them what was going on, and then think about the next step of, all right, let's just reflect and let's think about the things that were great in this whole journey. And that's when you get the gratitude and the grateful of, this journey has been beautiful. There was a lot of hugs, a lot of crying, a lot of, hey, we're not going to forget all these things. And so I really had to go into leadership mode, and I really had to turn it on and off kind of thing, because I was emotional. I really wanted to go in there thinking that we could win a championship, and I wanted to do it, coach, for my seniors.
Sure, and you guys have been working so hard for it. And I've heard from many leaders, men and women leaders, just about that facet of leadership in terms of you got to check your emotions at some point, and it's not about you, and the way you react to the situations is going to be how your team reacts as well. So obviously you mentioned, you were feeling probably disappointment also. So how do you do that though? How do you switch that off and put on the face that the team needs to see?
It's like a game.
Yeah.
You always have a strategy, and if you're up, then how can you think to keep your team composed? And if you're down, how do you get them back and get back into the game? And so for me, my mind is all thinking about their team, about their feelings, and about what can I do to say, hey, listen, this is what has happened, but let's be appreciative of the things that we've already done, and then kind of have a moment of everybody talking. I think that we don't do that enough, is be able to have a voice and express how we feel, and the things that mean a lot to you as a person, or the person beside you. And I think that, Vicki, it was the most powerful thing for everybody to go around the room and just kind of okay, whatever's happened is done. Let's talk about each other. Let's talk about family. Let's talk about the next phase in the life and how they're going to be sisters for life. And it was so impactful. And even heading down to the bus and not really knowing, once we got to the bus, we were going to go to the hotel, get our stuff. And that was the last time I've seen them, besides being on Zoom.
Yeah. And that's just wild.
It is.
So it's been several months now, and it's been several months for other folks as well.
Yeah.
You would hope that as on teams or as their leaders, they have already done that initial discussion and talked about what's going forward and rallying troops. So now that it's ongoing, though, how do you continue to motivate your team and keep them, keep their spirits up, or keep them working and focused on a goal? Because I imagine, at some point they're going to come back and play again. So how do you keep them focused now?
Well, I think that the powerful thing is Zoom's allowed us to really connect and talk to the group. And for me, I just decided to get really, really creative. I just said, I took my staff and I called them and I said, what are things that we can do to keep their minds going so they can get up, so they can have vision, so they can set goals, and knowing that you're going to have social distancing, you can't get out, things like that. What can we do as a group? And even how I can help others. The community, or, doing a leadership to coaches and mentoring them. So I started to build this vision plan, and I made everything about, okay, community, other people, coaches, my team first, making sure my seniors are in a good place where they feel like, they may miss walking across that stage, but making them feel like, okay, let's just talk this through. Let's celebrate. I sent a video and congratulated them. Just got really fun with them. And I think that what I came out of it was it gave us a chance to talk more than we've ever talked before.
Yeah.
If you think about a day that goes on and on and on, they go to school, they go to practice, okay? They a few minutes in the locker room. We are so close right now, and it's like together we're stronger than we've ever been. And I feel like it's just been a time of, let's get creative, staff, and I'll talk about that in a minute and I get more questions, but we came up with some fun games for them.
Yeah.
Picking a leader per week and saying, all right, Micah, this is your week. Tell everybody in the group what you like to do, and let's let them practice it. And Micah's like, I like to dance. Let's all make a dance video and then judge each other and who was first, second, or third.
Yeah.
And so the week went by, and then there was a few people that were like, oh, coach, I can't dance. No way. I'm like the white girl in the club. I'm off balance. And, they were just being funny. And so everybody started laughing. And then the next week, Paige said, I want to teach someone how to cook. So now she's teaching others how to cook.
Yeah.
So we've been spreading it out, and based on who everybody is, what is your gift? What do you like to do? And then making people do things that they thought they maybe never did before. Me. I don't cook.
Right.
I catch myself cooking because one of my players, I'm a takeout kind of girl. So it's been fun.
That's interesting because it kind of takes the pressure off of you to always have to be the leading, especially in Zoom meetings, which are just so different than in person. But kind of spreading out the
100%.
Other people taking the lead too.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, how about let's think a little bit about in terms of non-pandemic times and just regular the good old days of just actually games happening and halftime talks.
Right.
So as a coach, you said you've done this for over 20 years now. So I'm sure you've perfected the halftime talk.
Yeah.
So what is that combination in terms of motivating? How do you balance yourself between being the top cheerleader for the team, but also, being the enforcer and really lighting a fire under them, and while also, like you said, taking into consideration everyone's perspectives. How do you do that balance between cheerleading and pushing?
Well, for me, I like to get creative and maybe show the day of a game, a highlight film before we get going and go through the scout. And then pre-game, I really, really like to come up with a theme, some kind of fun thing that I can relate it to the game, tell them a special story. And I think that they can kind of understand okay, this is a story and coach has been there before. I like to share things. Hey, one time I won a championship down 4 points, 4 seconds. You're never out of the game. So always think that you're in the game, always fight through to the end, have that tail collar mentality. And so, just kind of get creative. Sometimes before a game, I always say, all right, here's a hat, pick a name out of the hat. And whoever that name is, don't tell that person's name. Okay, but you're in charge to motivate that person throughout the game. And at the end of the game, I want to see if you chose that person, if you knew who really was that person that holds you accountable.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, you just try to get creative, and because leadership, you got to make them think outside the box. So I enjoy doing stuff like that because, again, basketball's basketball, but it's that mental approach.
Sure.
It's that emotional approach that you can't get too high, you can't get too low, and that you got to stay level-headed to execute.
Right. So, you're dealing with college students, and that's life lessons there, right? Not just being discouraged when the score is down and they're having a terrible night, but also how they're going to function afterwards in the real life when they get a knockdown, right?
That's
and so
right.
what's the hardest thing that you see in terms of when you have a player that gets discouraged or just is just can't catch a break to get back up on there? What's the hardest thing to get them looking at it differently and out of that funk?
Right. So a lot of times you're seeing sometimes it's just a lack of confidence, and it's just you want them to have that next play mentality. Let it go. As long as if you're going hard and you're giving 110% and you're passionate and you're the ultimate teammate and you're diving on that floor for that ball and you're showing passion and you're attempting to give effort and rebounding and doing all the things that really wins basketball games, the little things, the intangibles that I always try to say, hey, you're not going to make every shot, but what else can you do? Can you be a cheerleader on the bench? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I think that it's very important to have dialogue, to be able to communicate and say, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Because communication solves problems. And I start every drill in practice, 3 communication drills.
Yeah?
Because I actually exercise their mouth. Because I'm I want their mouth to move.
Okay.
Because a lot of times they're always on their phone and they're doing this and they're just chewing gum. And I'm we got to problem solve. We got to, we got to talk on defense. We gotta, you know, have great leadership out there. Everybody can be a leader. Everybody can talk. So whether I'm circling them up in the middle and they're just talking for a minute. I mean, I was like, sometimes some of the new players come in and they go, what is coach doing? I'm like, hey, it's a 30-second drill, talk for 30 seconds. If anybody talk for 30 seconds, your jaw's gonna start to hurt, right? Well, I want them to talk the whole game for 40 minutes. So I'm like always saying that, hey, you have a voice, you're confident. You're on this team for a reason. You have a purpose here. So I want you to be a big part of what we're doing. You don't have to be the one who always scores the basket or this or that. Everybody makes up the team, and everybody's important on the team.
Okay. Now let me ask you about yourself. So quick side story. I mentioned that I wanted Coach Barefoot to speak at that Leadership Accelerator in 2017. And I just pretty much did a cold walk-in, a cold call into her office in Trask. And I could hear just coming down the hallway at 9 a.m. There's no way she could have had 5 cups of coffee yet, but you could hear the unscripted, didn't know I was there, just hooting, you know, to her staff, and it was loud, and it was very early in the morning. And that's when I was like, this person really like walks the walk, like the whole persona of being engaged and motivated is really kind of, I think, her personality. But I do want to ask about that. I mean, I feel like that is part of your personality, but how do you also maintain that? You know, how do you take care of that and, you know, foster that?
Yeah, so energy is a big deal for me. And so I have to lead by example. You know, if I'm going to expect that from others and have positive energy, I have to do it. And I think for me, I'm spiritual in a way that I really will get up and be thankful and grateful and read maybe a Bible verse or, you know, do something that, okay, what can I do today? And I kind of like write out my goals, and I have my vision board. And I add on to the vision board, you know, depending on where I am in my life, you know, with building a team or sustaining, like making sure we can win. Like there's all, my goals and my vision keeps going. But after I do that, I enjoy working out. You know, I might get a walk, a run, because I clears my mind. And then boom, I'm ready to go. The cup of coffee, the Red Bull energy's in effect. And it's just like, I'm just so grateful every day that I get to teach and reach through this great game of basketball that gave me so many opportunities. When I was 6 years old and my brother threw that ball in my hands and I threw it up and it went in, I was like, wow, I fell in love. I was married with that ball right then and there. So I knew when I graduated and got a head job, college job, right when I graduated with no experience.
Right. You were, what, 22?
22.
Your first head coaching job?
22 years old. An athletic director looked at me and said, I love the way you lead, and you're just, you know, that person that never stops talking. And that's always been my whole life. Even when I was playing with guys growing up, because there was no girls basketball, I was always leading the guys. I was the only girl out there going, hey, you do this, you do that. So, you know, I knew one day that I would either play professional basketball, which I did have that opportunity, or going to coaching, which, you know, I thought about that, and I decided to go there because I looked at Pat Summitt's story when she was 22 years old, and Wendy Larry from Old Dominion, and some mentors of mine, and I was like, man, I really, really, really want to make a difference teaching and reaching through that basketball. And it's more than just championships. It's building relationships, it's building leadership, and it's getting ready for them for the world ahead. So that's kind of my purpose and what I do. So I'm blessed to be able to do something I love.
So what's it been like for you for the past several months? Because I feel like you probably derive a lot of energy from talking with other people, from coaching. You know, your day job is coaching in person kids on the court. I should say kids, I should say students on the court, and you haven't been able to do that. So how have you stayed motivated yourself?
Right, so days go fast. But believe it or not, I'm booked. I mean, I speak a lot. I mentor other coaches.
Okay.
I help out other people that are going through hard times that I know in the local community with their businesses that you know, and like, hey, how can you motivate my employees because I don't know what's going to happen. So I've tried to give myself. I mean, if I could have a profession right now, I would be a doctor and nurse just because they're like the heroes right now. And of course, I can't do that because I'm not good at that, and I hate blood. I mean, anything like that. But I like to help people, so it's been very motivating to have a good balance. So my days go from early in the morning of still doing what I do, exercise, all that kind of stuff, eating something good, getting on a routine, and then, you know, mentoring, Zooming my players, checking on my seniors, making sure they're setting goals. What are you doing now to connect with people, you know, and things like that. Because I think that's very, very important to keep them motivated and keep them going and exercise and have a vision board and set new goals. And so it's been ongoing. Just like the other day, I had a kindergarten teacher call me and say, you know, do you have any extra basketballs and new basketballs? And I did, and they were wrapped in plastic, and I dropped off 50 basketballs to this lady who said I really wanted some of these kids to get, you know, some basketballs.
Wow.
And, you know, anything that I can do, I'm going to do. It's just always been me, because I feel like so many people have given me an opportunity my whole life. My coaches, when I played in college, athletic directors that have helped me. I'm just very grateful to be a part of this game, honestly. I just, every day. So motivating me is kind of easy, you know what I mean? I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm my own competition, you know what I mean? So if I get down about something, I know that I can just pick up the phone and call my twin sister, which is crazy, right? I got another twin, but she has nothing to do with basketball. She's in Virginia doing hair, which, you know, I needed my hair done still because I hadn't had my hair done like 3 months. But it, you know, you always go back to family. You always go back to family, and right now I've been able to even talk to my dad who sits in the couch, and I motivated him to do a 21-day build better habits of walking. So now he's walking.
Okay.
So now I think that the extra time that I do have, I get a chance to spend time, you know, checking on my family and cousins, which as a coach, sometimes you don't get those minutes and hours are gone, and you're like, and you're just texting. Now I actually can talk to them, and so that's special.
And you mentioned mentoring a minute ago, and you know, we had an earlier show where we talked with Don Estevez and Melissa Philippi about mentoring and the importance of it. So is that something that you've developed throughout your career, and how have you gone about doing that?
Absolutely. Well, I've started, you know, of course, way back then, so I've built a lot of relationships. I coached Division III, won a national championship, coached Division II, won a championship. You know, I've coached 3 times at a Division I level and been very successful. So I have all kinds of people that know me from all different levels. And when this all went down, I think that people started saying, hey, how can I get better? How can I get mentored from, you know, just learning, you know, what's Coach Barefoot's 5 championship rings philosophy, you know, and or what is her love philosophy? And everybody knows a little bit about my background. So they're trying to listen to my story and how I started and how I said, hey, I started making $7,000, woohoo, living at home, you know, full-time job. Because people don't understand, you gotta work hard, you know, you gotta pay your dues. And so I think sharing my story too, and how I've, you know, went up the ladder, helps other people understand is, you know, you gotta work hard, you gotta connect, you gotta care, you know, right now is a perfect time of reaching out to people and asking questions. I mean, and how did you do this, and how are you so successful? So I have really done a good job doing that, because I've spent a lot of time doing that if I'm not focused on my team and the things that I have to do, and even motivating my own staff. I want my staff, my assistant coaches, to stay motivated, and I want to grow them. I don't ever want them to feel like I'm not challenging them or pushing them in their careers, because professional development to me is big. If they're going to, you know, be in a point where like, okay, what can I do now? Hey, let's get creative here. Let's do something you've never done before and take on a different responsibility, and that's how people grow. When people can get uncomfortable to do things they've never done, this is a perfect time right now, then, you know, I'm challenging them to be better. So it's every day. Just like a Zoom call the other day at Coach's Corner, Absolute Coach's Corner, I had over 100 people on that Zoom call. And, you know, and I spoke for 2 hours. Yeah. That's a lot. And everybody was engaged, and that was pretty, like, powerful. 2 hours. And I was just so dehydrated, and I was like, my lip is like this the whole time. I'm like, but they had asked me so many questions, and I'm like, people are so hungry to learn and grow right now. Right. So I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. They're going to keep asking me questions. I'm going to keep going. And that makes me feel good, because I do want to help others through this time, because it's not an easy time. This is a hardship for sure.
And then on the other end of it, when you were coming up in your career, or maybe even now, in terms of seeking out the advice and mentorship of others, is it easier to do because the field of women coaches at this level is a smaller field, or did you actually have to, like you said, kind of go out to your comfort zone and approach people or develop relationships? Or we get a lot of questions a lot of times on how to develop mentoring relationships with others. Yeah,
and I think that when you get involved with the WBCA, with women's basketball, there's certain organizations people look into, but I think social media has taken off. Sure. And when you follow powerful women in leadership, you can really learn a lot, and you'd be surprised how many people will respond and say, hey, I'll take 15, 20 minutes with you. I mean, and I will give you a quick story. When I was 20 years old, I had no idea. Like, if I'm going to be a head coach at 22 years old, like, I have no experience.
Right.
Like, and I never thought in a million years, I wrote Pat Summitt. She's not going to write me back. Man, I got that thing in my entertainment room framed. Because she wrote me back, and
Right.
and who would have thought that? It was like, dare to be different. I was like, okay, I'm going to just do it. And she wrote back and she says, it is so powerful being a coach, because it's really not being a coach. It's about being a teacher. You know, it's teaching life lessons through that orange ball, you know, teaching them how to become a person of value, practice, you know, courage by taking ownership of your dreams. It's things like that. And so that's what I try to challenge people today, you know, today, even my own team, is like, you know, who do you look up to? You know, can we pull some old tape of some old video? Because right now there's no games, there's no sports on TV,
Sure.
but you can get some of that stuff. You can study and do your history, and or what woman in leadership are you, who do you look up to besides just a basketball player?
Yeah.
You know, who do you want to be like? So, I mean, I enjoy that kind of stuff, and I think just talking about it with people, it kind of like sparks something in their mind to go, okay, maybe I can do something. Maybe I can think outside the box and get creative, because it's all about being creative right now.
Right, yeah, exactly. So what about with your staff? You mentioned them, and this is their, you know, this is
Yeah.
their professional careers as well.
Yeah.
Have you been doing certain things with them to motivate them right now?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. We talk, when we do our staff meetings, of course we go through our staff meetings and they give their staff reports, and they do all kinds of stuff. But then, you know, we'll sing one night together on Zoom, karaoke night. You know, you can't forget in life, you gotta laugh and you gotta have fun. And even for me as a leader, I can't be like, let's go win championships, you know. I gotta, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And you hear that quote all the time, but you gotta care about your people. They're in it with you, you know. And so I think for me is that I like to check on them, you know, how they're doing, how's their wife doing, how's this, how's the dog, and just really just listening and taking time to, and getting to know them better, which is a great time to do that. You know, you got all this time, you get a chance to, you know, take care of them. And a few times, every time I'll call, I'm like, hey, how you doing? They're like, oh, coach, I'm gonna get ready to send this in right now. And I'm like, no, I'm not calling about that. I just wanna know how you're doing. You know, and I think that goes a long way to just, you know, make sure everybody knows that, you know, we're a family. You know, we may work hard and get after it, and at the end of the day, we do it together, and it's about relationships.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to put you on a spot a little bit
Okay.
here, so let me know if a story doesn't come to mind. But along the way, if you've done this personal leadership development, is there a misstep that comes to mind, or something you're like, oh, I wish I could have done that differently, and it was a learning experience for you?
Sure. Just an example from my career. Yeah, I definitely think when I started off coaching and stuff, you know, I think I made enough mistakes to get it. But one thing that you have to understand in coaching is that you're not going to make every basket. You're not going to win every game. So I think for me, I lost a few games, and one in particular in 2000, where, you know, we were in the Final Four, and we lost a game. But I think because probably I hadn't really prepared their minds, their leadership, to say that I expected it from them, but I really don't think I prepared them enough to face adversity. And that stung. That stung with me all summer. I was like, how could I have been a better leader? I don't think I approached that Final Four, even though everybody's like, wow, you guys made it that far. I was thinking national championship, and I think I put the pressure on them. So the following year, we kind of recovered, and we won the national championship, because I kind of ended up getting to that point where I'm like, I have to challenge them to get through adversity. And not worry about the little things, especially when you're on a national stage.
Sure, yeah.
So
all eyes on you.
I think I learned, and I learned how to be more calm through adversity, and that really propelled me through my, you know, coaching career.
That's good. It's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Before we run out of time, and just to wrap us up, can you just like leave us with your thoughts of for folks out there who are leading teams, or they're not leading teams, but you know, like you mentioned earlier, everyone's in a leadership position, or they're just thinking about themselves. What's your best takeaway advice for how to stay motivated during these times?
Stay connected and know that together we're going to get through all of this. You win one conversation at a time. You have no idea what you can do just when you say something to somebody. You can help somebody out. And all it takes is one a day, you know, just reaching out. And, you know, right now we're one big family. That's how I say, one big family. And we're connected, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to be stronger than ever. My favorite thing is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Coach Barefoot.
Thank you. I
appreciate
enjoyed
you
it.
coming by. I'm sure there's lots of fans in this town looking forward to when games can resume. And in a safe way, obviously, in a healthy way. But I want to thank you for coming today, and I want to thank all of you guys for watching as well. We will have this video and all of our other ones on our website at wilmaleadership.com, and we look forward to seeing all of you in person one day soon as well. Thank you.